is this card. Really kind of bright wedding card. And for this one, we are going to use the card deco squares again, which I had earlier. Ooh. We are going to use this Stamperia stencil. Okay. And we're going to use it in two ways. I'm just going to put that aside. We are going to use Elizabeth Craft Designs English Rose die. We are going to use some flower foam this time. This is from, let me check my list, Craft Artist Flower Foam, and this is from the Pinks and Purples collection. It's got a bit marked in my box, but we'll be fine. And this is the Crafter's Companion Petal Distresser, which is quite cute there. So I also have my hot glue gun, which I'm hoping is nicely heating up over there. And I'm just going to get my bits and pieces out that we can start. So what we are going to be doing is I'm using it's a 7x7 card, and I've already gone ahead and cut the mats and layers because they are not, really of too much of an issue. It's the rest of it that I want to show you how to do. So the card and the mats and layers are already there. So we're going to look at how to do this bit. So I need to start with a piece of card. Now, what I'm going to start with by doing is running this through the Gemini, because I don't just want to ink through it, I want to emboss it as well. Excuse me. So it's got a bit of texture. So, and bear with me while I remember my sandwich here. So I've got my cutting plate. I have my plastic shim. And then I need my metal shim. We'll soon find out if I'm remembering this properly. My metal shim. Then I need my stencil. Now, if your stencil, when you're doing this, does not have a particular pattern that's directional, or it doesn't have writing, it doesn't matter which way it's up. But because this has writing, I need to turn this face down. Otherwise, it'll be back to front. I then put my card over the top. I then put my embossing mat, and then my top plate. Okay, fingers crossed that I have remembered my sandwich properly. We'll see. Let's put that through. Ooh, I'm thinking that's not right. Did you hear the crack? I'm thinking I've got too much pressure in there, so we're going to see when this comes out what I've done. No, it's done it. Done it. We'll go with that. That's good. I'm happy with that. Now, something that I have done wrong. I meant to tape my my stencil down. Unfortunately, my stencil is still dirty, so that's another lesson to. I meant to take this down because what I want to do is, before I try and cut it out, is to ink through. So bear with me while I just try and realign my stencil. There we go. Okay, right. So I am just going to put a bit of tape on that so that it doesn't move. And what I am going to do is I am going to get picked raspberry distress oxide. And I am going to, because I want the just married and I want the cake, I am going to just literally with my brush, just going to ink through and it will pick up the embossed pieces. There we go. There we go. That's that. And then I want to do Just Married. I was trying not to get inky fingers, so I'm sorry, I'm putting my hands over. Let's get the ink. Do that. There we go. Okay, now, having seen when I ran it through just then, you could see that I still had some residue from before. Make sure that you do clean your stencil thoroughly before you do something like that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to fussy cut out the cake. So to start with, I'm just going to cut it out from the rest so that it's in a more manageable piece of card. I'm also going to roughly cut, but making sure I give myself the biggest borders I can, the sentiment that I want. And I'm going to put the rest to the side. So I'm going to fussy cut now my cake. Now I'm not too worried if I get little white bits, because I am going to go around with the ink afterwards anyway, but as close as I can, I'm going to fussy cut this out. Okay, and then once this is done, that will become our topper. So it's another way of using your stencils. They don't just have to be direct onto the paper. You can actually emboss with them. You can actually use them to create toppers. So make sure that you are making full use of your stencils. Okay, carry on with this. Then the next thing we're going to do once I've done this is we are going to cut all the bits and pieces out with the card deco squares and assemble it. And then once that's done, then I will show you how I assemble the card. How I make the 3D rose with the foam. Okay, so I am going to get my trimmer, and going to try and get this trimmed. So, like when I'm doing things like this, I tend to use, I don't know if you can see, this line here is fairly straight. So I tend to try to line up the bottom of that sentiment with the line, making sure I've got a little bit of room there. And it will be then roughly straight. Okay. And then we'll cut this off there. Oops. Like that. And we'll do the same. Now that edge is straight, it makes it quite simple. And then we'll do the other end. So we've got our sentiment cut out there. Okay. And I'm going to get my picked raspberry again, and I'm going to do it on a piece of card to stop the ink getting on that before I do the next job. And I'm literally just dragging the ink in, and with the brush, you can see I've used glue on here. It's doing a nice resist. You can get that kind of nice feathered effect on the edge there. That, and then same, just to get rid of the stark white edges on the edge of the cake. We will just bring that in. And there we go. So that is ready. put that with a card. So our next job is to cut these bits with the card deco dies. Bear with me, bear with me, bear with me. Oh, I put them back. Those. Oh, look, there they are. Stuck to it. Okie dokie. So we have our card, which I've already pre-prepared. So I have my piece of, now this is Cintura Pearl in fuchsia. Then I have Cintura Pearl Snow White into silver. Now I've been a bit lazy. I haven't popped all these dots up, and I'm hoping that that's not going to cause me too much of a problem. But I am going to trim that so that I have enough room on my plate to do all the dies at once. So that's that one. And then I have this one is Creative Expressions foundation card in sherbet. With these little ones, make sure you're getting them the right way up. And then this is just white stamping card for the one in the middle. And then that's the next one in. So I am going to get my tape, and I am going to tape these all down. I'm going to put a couple of bits on this big one and just make sure these are caught in with these little ones, and I've got them up the right way. And we will run these through the machine. Hopefully it's still working after that last crack. Could be in trouble if it's not. There we go. Sorry, might just want to see one of my dies. It's just hanging off the edge, and I just need to move that back in, otherwise it's not going to cut. Right, here we go. Fingers crossed. Sounds all right. Well, it's going through and it's cutting. No big crunch that time. Phew! Woo. That crack there was the die, and I know that the new one. There we go. There we go. It's all our bit. Square that. I'm going to dump these dies to the side, and I will tidy them up later. There, and then that's the side. Clean off those bits. Up there, and there we go. So I am going to run my brush over this one to get out most of the bit. Take the tape off. Take the tape off there and run it over, so most of the bits then will be out. You can see they're all over the place here. We need that bit. We need that bit. We need, oh, there you go, you see. Because, can you see, because I hadn't cleaned it out, some of these bits have not come out. And so that's purely my laziness. Nothing to do with the dies, just because I hadn't bothered cleaning. So I'm going to leave those. We're not going to worry too much about those. And then we're going to pop this one out. So pop through one of the holes in the corner, which lifts it, and then you can gently tease that out. And it's out. I think all the bits are out or either left in the die, which is good. Let's put that to the side. So we are going to assemble all the card, and then we'll look at how to make the flower, because it will be put on afterwards. I'm just going to brush that to the side. Okay, so we are starting with our piece of Cintura Pearl, which I am going to put on straight. There we go. Some glue. Turn that way. Get some glue on the back. And then I'm going to stick that Ugh, making a right mess here. And let's stick that down. There we go. And then my piece of center of pearl, I'm going to slightly offset. Now, it's entirely up to you how you do this, because even when I'm random, I like to be, there be some, try that again. Even when I'm random, I like there to be some order to my randomness in a weird way. So what I tend to do is I tend to try and get the corners touch the edge. You see what I mean? So I've got a corner here touching the edge, corner touching the edge. I've got a little bit over that way, corner touching the edge, corner touching the edge. Okay. So even when I'm trying to be a little bit sort of, you know, doesn't really matter, it still does really matter. But hey ho, that's me and my little quirks in the way I like to do things. Okay. And then the same with this one. So I'm aiming to see if I can get it to touch the four sides roughly. Doesn't always work, but roughly. And then you kind of know you're kind of getting a really even sort of go round. Now, the white one, I am going to try and line up now. Now, I always find with this that my eyes start to go. Once I've started to move things round, I then struggle to see where the straight bit is. So use, if you have a craft mat, use your craft mat to get your eye back into where what is level. So I put my base card on one of the lines, and it's that I'm looking at when I'm trying to line this up now, so that I'm getting a fairly square piece in the middle. Okay, I mean, if you don't want it to be square, it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be square. It's absolutely fine. So the next thing is my frame that I cut out with the deco card deco squares. This is one. This is getting in my way. Probably snap off now I've done that. It's usually what I manage to do. Okay, so now I am just dotting on some glue randomly around. Okay, here we go. And I am going to just blot it because there's quite a lot of glue on there. And okay, and again, this is going to go square as I can into that white one. Okay. This one, you just ignore the fact that I didn't push all the holes out. And so we've got it thin, and we will stick this one on, and we're going to do the whole turny thing. Whereas before we turned that way, this time we're going to turn that way. So this one's going to go, and it will only go just slightly because it's only just slightly smaller. It's going to go that way. Okay. And then I'll stick the little white one square onto the sherbet card, and then we'll stick that again, bring it back down to something that's that is in line, because your eyes do start to go a little bit weird when you're playing with all these like offset bits. Okay, now I'm going to just round this to give it a bit of dimension to go in, and again the same with this, just give it a little bit of dimension. Just put the lid back on that glue, and what am I looking for? My 3D glue gel. Okay, so some down the middle. You don't need it all over. You might want to put a little bit down there just to anchor it, but it should hold with that bit down the middle. So we're putting our cake here, and then we're going to put our sentiment down here. Move the cake up just slightly. So glue gel on the back of this. Woo! And just run out right at the very end. Let's hope this one is working. Yes. Okay. Run out right at the very end there. And there's our sentiment. Right, so all of that is done. What remains to be done now is the flower. So before I do the flower, I'm just going to have a little bit of a clear up here so that we're not contaminating little bits. So what I will be using is the Elizabeth's Garden English Rose, and I am using some of the Craft Artist flower forming foam. And the pack that these two colours I'm using is from is just called Pinks and Purples. I am not using heat. Sometimes I do when I do flower forming, but for this particular project, I am not using any heat. But I will be using my glue gun, and I like to use. Oh, I'm covered in bits now. I like to use a piece of florist wire, the quite strong one, in order to help me to form the flower. So I'm hoping it. So I just use, and what do I use? About 5 inches. I don't need it all. Sometimes I leave it in, sometimes I pull it out. It depends what I'm doing. So let's put our card to one side and let's bring in our foam. So if you've not used flower forming foam, it's not like the funky foam that you buy for children. It is thinner, although you can get various different thicknesses. You can heat it, which makes it more malleable, but you can also use things like I'm using today, which is the Crafter's Companion Petal Distresser, which also kind of stretches it and gives it a little bit more texture. Now, just like the fuchsia one, I get selective in what I want to use. So I'm going to use these 2 dies, and I'm going to cut them out on the dark pink, the bright pink, if you like. I'm not going to use the stem. I'm not going to use the leaves, and I'm also not going to use this bit here. This bit, if I was doing it with a paper flower, that's the bit that would get rolled in the middle to form the center of the flower, and I don't want that. I want quite an open flower. So I'm going to take the other 5 petals and I'm going to cut them in this. Now, flower forming foam cuts really easily, and it's the sort of thing that when you are batch making flowers, you can cut several layers in one go. This will cut 3 layers, no problem. And the other thing is you don't need a lot of pressure in your machine. So in the Gemini, I literally, normally when I'm cutting things, I use the magnetic shim. But with this, you don't need the magnetic shim. You don't need that amount of pressure, and it will still cut 3. That said, I am, just so that I'm not wasting the foam, I am only going to cut what I need today. And that's another reason not to use too much pressure, because that's when you end up making your plates bow too much. So I'm literally just going to cut what I want from there, and I'm going to cut a strip down here. Okay, now it is quite tough stuff to a point. You can see you can pull it. Yeah, as soon as it heats up, it's very malleable. So this stuff will stretch, but you push it too far and it will rip. So there are things you can do with it and things that will just go a little bit too far. So I'm going to put my plate, and I'm going to stick to there. And again, I will use my tape. Now I will put the tape across the die and off onto the plate, if that makes sense, just so that it's holding the foam as well, because it's a bit slippery. So make sure that you have anchored everything down. So on this one, I'm going to arrange these down. I'm not going to put a piece on each. I'm going to put one long bit down all of them, and then a couple of bits. So I'm going to put one long bit down like that, kind of anchors all the dies together, and then I'm going to put a couple of bits that just anchor the foam as well. Okay, so all I need then, I don't need my magnetic, I just want my plastic shim and my top plate, and I'm going to put that through. Now I'm just going to reach over and I'm going to grab my glue gun. I'm hoping it's going to reach. I've got it twisted, haven't I? Brilliant, thank you. Okie dokie, so excellent. So we brought my glue gun in. It has been sitting, heating away. Now I always have my my glue gun on a little mat. You can see it's bowed, and that's because of I tend to leave it. My stand is broken on this one, and so I just tend to leave it like that. So it does tend to bow that, but that's just the heat. That is nothing to do with there being anything wrong with it. So here we go. Take those off, and I'm going to move that right out. Okay, so let's get these pieces out. So you can see they just pull out, no problem. And it's because I've got so much tape. They're just like, I'm not coming out because you've taped me in really well. You've seen how much tape I've accumulated here. Ever being frugal, so I'm not going to waste it. Take these off. So like I say, you could have cut 3, at least 3. I reckon you could probably cut 4 at a go on this foam. So I should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes, 5. Can't count, Carol. 5 petals. Put those in there, and then 2 of these. Oh, might not. Oh, that one didn't catch quite so well. There we go. That's 1. And then that one's up. Oh, come on, come on. Right, there we go. So it's in my box. So now what I'm going to do is, before I do anything, I'm just going to make a hole in there and a hole in there. I might need to do it again once I put it through the petal distresser, but we'll see. I'm just going to move my glue gun to one side. So the petal distresser works like this. You've got a bit that goes with on your finger, and you've got the ridges. And yet again, as with everything, mine it's covered in glitter. So it'll add a little bit of sparkle to the flowers. Now, with these petals, all you do is you roll them up and you lie them that way, okay? And you are going to just rub with, you hear the friction it's making. And can you see, it gives us some nice texture and shape. So our petals are now no longer just flat. And I had this problem when I was doing this. I seem to generate a lot of static. It might be all the glitter that's on there but it generates quite a bit of static. So we're getting our little petals here, all shaped. Let's roll this one. Oop. That. Oh yeah, I definitely got a bit of static going on. And petal 4. And the last of the sort of separate petals. Okay. Now with okay. Right. With these ones, what you need to do is you need to sort of fold them so the 3 petals are one on top of each other. And again, roll. Okay. Now just be aware that, you know, there is a very thin piece here. So you just need to be a little bit careful. And it does start to open. And you can see, look, now you've got a nice, more natural looking, rather than just, you know, just a flat piece of foam. Because when it stretches the foam, it also kind of changes the colour slightly. So it gives it a much more natural look. So 1, 2, and 3, roll it over. And then again, oh, I didn't roll that one very well. I could feel that didn't want to go round. Let's try that again. Okay, there we go. So, okay, now let's put that to the side. I used the floral wire purely because I don't like particularly hot glue guns. Hot glue guns I only tend to use with flower forming, but I do try to like to keep my hands away as much as possible, which is why I have this. Okay, so we'll see how we go. Now, the other thing I will say, when you use a hot glue gun with flower forming foam, it will make the foam move because it reacts to heat in the same way as if you were using like an iron to heat the foam before you molded it. It is going to make things go. So you kind of just have to go with it. Okay. I'm not always the best at going with it, so sometimes I get quite frustrated with this, but we'll see how we go. So I'm going to have my thing over here. So I've got my my wire through. It doesn't matter how far up it goes. Sorry, am I causing chaos with my glue gun? Thank you. The lovely Dean's just moved the plug so that it's not pulling so much. Right, can you see already that it's being attracted to my heat gun? Yeah, that's because the flower, it wants to react to the heat. So I want to try and put some glue just on that middle bit there. Okay, and then, because I've already got the hole, can you see it's made that go down? Don't worry about that. It's made the hole. I can push that down. Now, don't worry if things have got a bit distorted. And the other thing not to worry about is all these bits. Yeah. Your fingers are more important than those bits. Those bits can be got rid of afterwards because they literally will pull off or snap off. So I've got my base layer on. Okay. And yeah, we will deal with those later. So now these individual petals literally just stick in like this. And so it's up to you how you do them. Totally full of static. It's sticking to everything. So it's entirely up to you how you arrange them. But try to make sure that can you see if it would just stop sticking to me, that each petal has this kind of smaller bit, which is the bottom, and that's the bit you want to be sticking in here. So I'm going to take my glue gun again and I'm going to put more glue in and right the way around this time, and I am literally going to just push the petals. You see, he's going with the glue. It's also, I think, I somehow seem to be getting an absolute ton of static into these, and I don't really know why. Let's move that one around a little bit, probably too late now. I'm not too worried at the moment that this seems very open because I'm going to do one more thing in a moment. There we go. So I've got my 5 petals on, okay? And because it's a hot glue gun, those will be dry almost instantly. Now, you could leave it as a really lovely open flower like this. I do want it to be a little bit more sort of closed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit more glue there. And I am going to just do that and hold on to it for a moment until the glue has decided to set. Now, there is a bit of a puddle of glue in there. And you can see on my sample what I do is put one of these. If you have, you know, you can buy the ready-made stamens, you can put them through. If I was doing that, I would have put the stamens through the pink right at the very beginning before I put anything else on. Okay, so I'm going to leave that just a sec to harden off, and then it's a case of sometimes I put too much glue on and the bit of wire won't come out. So all I'll do is I'll cut it off at the bottom and I'll clip it off in there. I'm thinking this one feels like it might come out. Yeah, can you see well, I got that on the camera there, hopefully there. You can see that it's slipping out there. Okay, so I'm just going to pull and it's coming out and there. So there we go. So I've now got my flower. I'm just going to hold on to it just a bit longer because I did put quite a bit of glue there before so that it doesn't just flop back out. Okay, right, so there is my flower, and you can see I did more to the petals than I did on this one. I was a little bit more aggressive with the thing. So two very different sort of looking flowers there. So let's put that now to the side. I want my glue gel. I have pre-made, she says, somewhere over here. I've got my bow and I've got my little bit to go in the centre of the flower. It could be whatever you might have, those sparklers. It literally is, the reason it's there is to just to cover that glue. Okay, so all I'm going to do, because that's now dry, I'm just going to put a little bit of glue gel in there and I'm going to just poke that down into the centre and then it covers up I think. So now I got to decide how I'm going to have my flower, and I do still have some strings on the bottom. I'm just gonna pull those away. I'm afraid for me I'm always a bit wary of hot glue, so I'd rather have lots of strings than burnt fingers. So we'll go with it there, I think, and the bow there. Okay, so we'll have a bit of glue gel for our bow, like so, and then we're going to put a bit of glue gel for our flower. Now I want it to stand up a little bit more, so I'm going to put some there and kind of push it in like so, and there we have our finished card. Like I said, the flower is slightly different to the one that I did before, and the bow is not quite as under, but oh, I'm pushing the bits out there. But essentially the same, exactly the same idea, exactly the same techniques. I think the bonus. I'll fiddle and faff with that after the Facebook live is finished. But so that is our third and final project for today's Facebook Live. Hope that you have enjoyed being with me today and that you've got something out of at least one of the demos today. And thank you for joining me. Pleasure to have your company.